What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to solve obesity, diabetes, mostly in kids, and loneliness. And the only way to do that in a capitalist society is get people capital to actually go and attack those three things in a business that is profitable. Okay. Then more and more money pours in here, like, hey, I can make a lot of money in the Halo sector.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, hosted by Krissy Vann. Together, we're uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. On this episode of All Things Fitness and Wellness, I sit down with Pete Moore, the founder of Integrity Square and a leading expert in the Halo industry. In this episode, Pete shares insights on the crucial elements health club operators need to make AI effective, discusses key investment trends we should be watching for in 2025, and explores the potential disruptors poised to shake up the Halo industry next year. With a wealth of experience from advising over $1.5 billion in transactions to co-founding Iron Planet, Pete brings a unique perspective on what's next for our industry. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes each week with industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Krissy Vann, and this is ATFW. We met at Beyond Active. Obviously, I know that you had so much networking to do. I'm not sure how many panels you attended, but what were kind of the biggest takeaways for you from that event, aside from the epic podcast that we did with Mo and Matt on Lifts, where it was the podcasters pod? That was a highlight. But otherwise, what were you kind of hearing or the sentiment from people?
Look, there's a lot of investment that is going to continue to be made in the Halo sector, as I like to call it. There's vendors that are getting funded that, quite frankly, I didn't think needed to be funded anymore, such as, a software billing company or a membership, AI. Like, you'd think at some point that a lot of the big software companies, as an example, that have big private equity or venture capital firms behind them would kind of like own that market. And there seems to be, smaller companies that are being funded, like Arquetta and, big companies now like Zenoti. And, as you look at the space, you think like, do we have enough software companies out there, or is there a frustration that's not being solved that someone's getting into the software space in the Halo sector in 2024? And I was in that industry on the software side back in 2000. And we were going to basically like try and replicate on the web what ABC was doing. And I said to my partner, like, we don't need to do that. Like, they cover that well. We don't need to be in the billing business, but maybe that would have been a good idea at the time. Instead, we were basically like a CRM and a online fitness and nutrition program instead of collecting the cash, which is, pretty sticky to do. So, I think there's a lot of innovation. There's obviously a huge blitz of, different types of Pilates, reformers that are coming out. I love Pilates. Except I can't wear my shoes while I'm doing it. So that's a little bit of upsetting, Downer. Debbie Downer. Who's Debbie Downer anyway? Where is she?
Debbie.
Debbie.
She doesn't hang out over here. We're not on the downer. We're on the upper.
That's great. So from a standpoint of, innovation, I think it's there. I think the problem, if you want me to tell you what the problem is.
Absolutely.
Is that a lot of the operators in the sector don't necessarily have like the executive bench or like the educational DNA to actually implement all these really cool things. I wear this jacket that I could show you on screen, but I have to get up again. I'm not going to do it. But on the back of my jacket that I wore to the show on the second day is you can't have artificial intelligence until you have intelligence. And the quote came from me. Just to where it came from. So I have a lot of these gym owners and big health club owners, and they say, I'm going to do AI on this, I'm going to do AI on that. I'm like, you don't have anything to AI, right? Because all you know is my credit card, my birth date, and my member ID and my address, right? So I always say to them, like, look, if I'm going to be a member, have a relationship with me. And if you're going to have a relationship with me, you need to know the history of my athletics. You need to know the history of my fitness. You need to know like about my family. You need to know what scares me, what excites me. And as a quick example of that, if I may.
Please.
Oh, thank you.
I'd be disappointed if you didn't.
So when I was 11 years old, when the ice cream man used to come around every day with that jingle on the truck.
I still get excited if I hear the jingle of that truck.
Yeah. So I get excited, but after the story, you might not be as excited. Okay. So my dad had like a little change bin, and I was allowed to have access to that as the oldest son in the family. You didn't really like have a problem with me taking quarters out of there. So at 11, I had a bad sweet tooth. Like I would just love eating, ice cream or Big League Chew. There was a thing called Fun Dip. You ever have Fun Dip?
Of course, I had
It's
fun dip.
basically just like sugar in like a plastic bag with like a spoon, right? So I used to go to the ice cream man. I used to buy up all this stuff for like $3 or $4, and I would hide it under my bed. And then when I'd go to sleep, I would basically eat all the sugar before I went to sleep. I'd sometimes wake up with like Big League Chew all over my pajamas. I mean, I don't know what was going on in there while I was sleeping. I might have still been eating. And then I got a little chubby, and I had to go to the Sears department to buy elastic jeans with my mother, and it was called the Husky department. Okay. This was before like mental health. Why does the kid who's 11, who's fat or chubby, go to the Husky department? So I ended up having to buy all these like elastic jeans and elastic like corduroys. And, the point of that story is I became an athlete after that, and was very concerned about my weight. If you don't know that story about me and I work out in your club, like that is like a trigger for me. So if I come into your club and it's, ATFW, fitness, and I go in and you see I like put on 10 pounds, you'd be like, yo, beat him out. Are we going back to the Sears department to go to Huskies, or are we going to go into this, PT, for 90 days and get the shit back in order, So like, if you don't know stories about people and like what their history is, you don't really know how to speak to them. And also another story, which is totally not the reason why we got on this podcast yet, but about AI. There was a group that I was working with, and they said that they had a couple of basketball players that are now like personal trainers. Okay. And my nephew and I, like, we trained for like 4 years, 2 years over COVID. And, we just wanted to make the JV team. And if there was a trainer that was in my club and that person would help me get my nephew to another level, I would owe that male, female personal trainer, like, dude, that's a goal that I wanted to have for my nephew. And you helped me get to that goal. And if you don't really know what people are inspired by or what people need help with, they're not really a member because they're not a friend of yours. So I feel like this member database is like the most important thing you have, and it's an asset. And you let it attrit at 3, 4, or 5% a month, and no one cares because no one's responsible for the members. So at a club chain that lost like 3,500 members last month, and I had their whole management team there, and I'm like, who's responsible for this? Nobody raised their hand because no one's responsible for attrition. Everyone's responsible for sales. So I feel like we got to like check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, if I could use like a hip hop quote. And like, let's focus on learning everything about me and then make it really hard to break up with me, as a health club operator, and change the game of like, oh, I'm a HVLP, so I can't get that information. Come on, dude, you can get that information. You go to camp and you meet 500 kids. At the end of camp in 2 months, you know everything about 500 kids. So my concern is that the technology is there, but people aren't implementing it because there's no one who's taking responsibility for it. And that's going to be like the differential in the future of like who actually knows who their members are and what they care about.
Number one, super appreciate the hip hop quote. My favorite is climb the ladder of success, escalator style, Notorious B.I.G.
Okay.
Number
I like that.
two, I think one of the big conversations to your point that we heard was a lot of people cautioning integrating AI for the sake of integrating AI. And it sounds like there's a lot of that even when it comes to product development, where it's like, let's make this tool, but what are we actually going to use it for? It's like that excitability factor. So I'm curious from you where you're saying, yeah, that's great, but if you don't have the actual details, what the heck are you going to do with the information? Who's doing it well then? Like if you're a health club operator or gym owner, who do you say that they should look at that's actually nailing that and doing that well?
I'd say some of the high end hotels, and that's even rudimentary at this point. I would say, if you go check into a Four Seasons or a Ritz Carlton, which I stay in like when a deal closes, and I stay in, like the A Loft or Garden Inn or something. But when I do go to those places, they know, if I like coffee or tea. They know what kind of newspaper to put in front of my door. They might know like what kind of like firm pillows. So they'll know certain things about you. And then there was a resort that I stayed in, like when they come up to you, they're like, "Oh, yo, Krissy, how are you doing today?" I'm like, "Dude, how do you know my name?" And they're like,
You're like, "Do
"Something
I
in
have
the
a name
back."
tag on?"
Yeah, I don't have a name tag on. They're like, "Oh, Mr. Moore, how'd you enjoy the pool yesterday?" It's like, "How'd you know I was at the pool?" So that's like embedded in the culture of like hospitality. And I feel like some reason we think that our employees like can't go there, or like that shouldn't be part of their like job description. It's just to be like checking people in and like folding towels, like I don't
Yeah.
want you to fold another towel. If you work for me and I had a club or a studio, there would be no folding towels, because once that class starts, I want you to go on my LinkedIn. I want you to go on my Instagram if I'm a member. If you're like at the front desk, let's say, crushing it at your job, and I want you to be like, "Hey, there's 30 people in this class. I know that this guy got engaged. Okay, so we know that he's gonna have a party, right? He's gonna have a wedding. That means that like 60 people that probably live in this area are gonna want to get dressed up and look nice and lose weight for the wedding pictures. Okay, that's a lead. I said to somebody the other day, "How many event planners do you have that are members of your club? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, how would I know that?" Well, an event planner lives in a 15-minute radius of your health club, and they know who's getting married. They know who's having a bar mitzvah, who's having a bat mitzvah, who's having a communion, who's having like a blowout party, right? Get those people and say like, "Hey, I got a 60-day like boot camp to get you ready for this event." And people look at me like I'm crazy. It's like you just have to listen and know what's going on, and then figure out what you're an authority in and infuse yourself into that.
It's actually funny because you gave me a flashback of my life. So I started out my career working on cruise ships.
Oh, okay.
And I still remember cruise, courtesy, respect, unfailing, and service excellent, gold, greet and smile, own the problem, look the part, deliver the wow. And that was indoctrinated in me culture wise
And what
from the
what what
get go
company
to
was that?
26.
What
Royal Caribbean and Princess.
See, that's like, some people get onboarded into a health club in like 10 minutes, you know? Somebody was like, "Oh, how do I do this? How do I use Mind Body, or how do I use ABC?" It's like, "Oh, do this tutorial." It's like when I grew up in banking in 1994, I literally had a guy. I saw him the other day, by the way. His name's Greg Gerard. He used to wear the seersucker suit during the summer. It's weird. And he just had a 3-year-old kid. His name's Fred. Maybe he'll listen to this podcast. And I love this guy. And what this guy did was he stood over my shoulder literally for like 6 months, teaching me how to use Excel, teaching me that like, hey, what you put into the spreadsheet, like I don't want you to input it. I want you to input it, print it out, go to sleep for 5 hours, come back here, and then tell me what it means. Okay. Like, so that guy like trained me on how to not just like input something into a computer, but like take it and say, like, let me tell you what these trends mean, or let me tell you what's important. Right. And I feel like a lot of the employees that are in the health club industry, like some of them just want to make money. Some of them want to be in an environment where they don't have to get dressed up, where they don't have to be at a desk. But there's going to be like a group of like data scientists or people like that just know everything about every member. We work with this company called Promotion Vault, and we're creating something called Employee IQ, and it's morphing from like gift cards to like employee retention. But if you sat down, maybe your last job, I don't know, do you have any employees right now, or like people that work for you?
Party of one.
Party of one. Okay, I'm party like 6, please. So you can join our table.
Excellent.
7. So party of 8, please. Got to probably prepay or like put a credit card down, because if we're not going to show up. So with my employees or with my interns, right? Like I don't really know much about them except like the school that they went to, where they're from. And a lot of these health clubs, they don't know that, Krissy, okay, you're one of our top salespeople. We're opening up a new club in Scottsdale, Arizona in a year from now. Let's find out who would want to go there, right? Let's find out that, hey, you got a business school degree and you want to get a personal trainer, you want to be an acupuncturist. Let me pay for that for you. Like a lot of consulting firms and banks basically say, you want to learn more, I'll pay for it as long as you stay. Because if you don't stay for like 2 years after that, then you got to pay me back. Kind of like like the Army or the Navy. Like we'll educate you, but you gotta serve.
Right. Pay your dues.
Yeah. So I feel like there's like this employee um, intelligence, industry that's like kind of below, and it kind of needs to be like in front. And a lot of people need to realize that the people that work at your company, they're like the first image or the first interaction that people have with your brand, And if my interaction with you and your brand is some 18-year-old kid looking at their cell phone, unshaven and like with their head down and drooping. Like that's not where we work. That's not how we roll here. So I feel like there's a big opportunity, but it's not going to be the software that comes out with all the bells and whistles and the AI. It's going to be the people that say technology. I'm going to keep talking for a second. Is that cool?
This is what podcasts
Okay,
are
cool.
for.
Thanks.
Keep going.
Stop me when you need to. People are going to say everything in this club is a weapon. Okay. We got this really cool Pilates class. What? It's a weapon to help people get results. All right. We have this, protein juice bar. Okay. That is a nutritional weapon that we're going to sell and we're going to make a margin on. Technology is a weapon. It's like the central nervous system of the business. So before I sit down with a member or after they go to class and they come out and they say, Krissy, I love that class. You say to them, look, I saw you getting engaged. You just got engaged. Congratulations. You want to do maybe like a little party here. Maybe we'll take over the studio for 8 to 10, next Sunday to like celebrate with you. It's like $1,000 and we'll bring in some food. I'm going to upsell you with my relationship with you. I'm not going to upsell you, because I've done the work. I know what your triggers are. A personal trainer, like why can't a personal trainer call me and give me a wake-up call? I don't know. I need that, right? And if I say to a personal trainer, if they wake me up like I'm going, it's embarrassing if I say yo, bro, I had a bad night's sleep last night. I was watching Netflix until 4 a.m. Like, get your ass in the gym, dude. I'll see you in 20 minutes. Okay. So is that AI? No, that's just like I have a relationship with you now. And what am I going to do? Say, oh, there's this new club, EOS, that just opened up. I think I'm going to move to EOS. Bro, I've been picking you up. I've been calling you. Okay. We got a carpool system. You're going to go because they have what? What they got that I don't know. They got a new Olympic squat rack. Give me a fucking break, dude. Like, we're getting results here. You're not leaving for that.
Yeah, I guess like where you could hear some of the rebuttal to that, because I 100% appreciate what you're throwing down. But one of the things that we constantly hear are those labor shortages and churn. And like, it's so difficult to get people to buy into culture at this point. So, how does one combat that? Like, if you're presenting this as an option, what's the formula to get the buy in from your staff?
So, I want less staff and I want them to make more money. And I want them to have in their DNA that they want to win every day. And the best way to do that is go recruit Division I, Division II, and Division III college athletes at a school that don't want to go work in consulting and they don't want to go sell, or rental cars at Enterprise, which is a great business. However, if they're on a team, okay, this is the only industry where you can replicate being on a team and putting on a jersey and going in and listening to music and working out with your friends and actually making money at the same time in like a business model that's scalable that you can have a big impact on. So did you have a copy of my book, by the way? I got to send you a copy of the book.
No, I have some reading to do.
Yeah. It's like a lot of caricatures in it. It's a quick read, but it's 52 takeaways from team sports to ensure your business success. And one of them is like, you have too many players on the ice. Like if you're watching a hockey game and they have like 7 players, or they whistle and, too many players on the ice.
Did you say that because I'm Canadian? You were like hockey.
No, I'm not. Hockey's my favorite. Hockey's my favorite sport to watch.
What team?
New York Rangers.
Nice.
Yeah, Captain America's he went to 7 games this year. 7 playoff games. Yeah, there's. My point is like you don't need 20 people inside of your club. You just need like 8 awesome people who give a shit and like care and are sociable and know how to run the play. You know what I mean? So. Yeah, there's a labor shortage, but if you pay people more, there's not a labor shortage. There's a wait list.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess to your point, finding those right individuals, the team sports comparable makes so much sense, and they're going to be the ones that champion as you go on. Now, one of the things we started the conversation, which I just love, organic weaving conversations, we chatted AI. You brought up the Pilates resurgence. I actually couldn't get over at Pilates was almost every conversation that I had at Beyond Active, but we are going to be heading into 2025. So I feel like the Pilates convo or the AI convo has been the constant at every convention this year. What do you think is going to be the new disruptor that dominates the conversation in 2025? Where should we be looking?
There's going to be most of the big software companies are going to be sold from one group to another in the next 12 to 18 months. A lot of that's in the public domain. So the question I think that is going to be transformative is if a billing or software company or groups that, do your marketing services, they basically say, you run the inside four walls of the club. I'm going to run everything else for you. And it's going to be like a managed service, like outsourcing your technology, outsourcing your, customer support, which a lot of, ABC does that already. But I'm talking about taking it like to the next level where like you run the AI, reports for me and, figure out how many people, said on a survey that we did that, that they're a hockey fan. Okay. And ABC is let's use ABC as an example because I love what they do. And Bill Davis and the whole team over there, I think is awesome. And their DNA was always like protect the bank account of a health club operator, right? That's how they got into business. And they did that. Paul Shalley used to say, like, we were a 38-year overnight success, and they used to go to all these Thomas Plummer events and bring people on and control their billing, which is like having somebody control your billing is like letting somebody borrow your toothbrush. It's like, dude, I need my toothbrush and like I'm gonna let you hold it overnight for me. It's probably actually even more than that. The point I'm trying to make is I don't know if I need to educate everyone like I just told you before, like we got an issue, right? I want people to tell me, what do I need to focus on? And not like how many people haven't shown up here in 90 days. Duh, I could run that report myself. Tell me what's going to move the needle. Tell me, what you learned from a survey, employee survey, what's going on here? Like, why did our NPS score with our employees go down? Like, let's get ahead of this. And I think it's going to be companies that are technology companies that actually become like managed services companies that are going to help you make decisions and give you reports. And instead of them saying, oh, your attrition's, 4% this month, it's like your attrition is now 2.5%. And I saved you 1.5%. And I'm going to tell you what I did. Okay. And then we're going to educate everyone in the club what they need to do. And not just say like, oh, people, just give up or they lose hope or, they say they move 50 miles away. No, dude, they didn't get results, right? This isn't a place that they need, right? That's important to them. So figure out how to make it important. And I don't care if you have like 12,000 members in the HVLP 2.0 and someone's like, we can't provide that kind of service because, it's an HVLP model. It's like, that's so ridiculous to me because every time I walk into, like a restaurant that I've been to for a long time in New York City, they remember my name. They know where I work. They know what, what made them laugh when I spoke to them. They know what table I like. Right. So get to a point where it doesn't matter how many people, like I'm going to figure out a way to get people results and say, like, I can help you. And not like, oh, I'm billing your credit card every month. And I forgot to tell you what the annual maintenance fee is. And you're pissed, So I think the next wave is like, who's actually going to use the technology or who's going to like on the technology side say is like, look, I'm not just your software or billing provider, but I'm going to actually like be this central intelligence agency and you're going to pay me more, but I'm going to feed you what you need. I'm going to educate your people and I'm going to help you like run this. That's what I
Yeah.
think is going to happen.
Well, and it definitely weaves into the AI conversation. They're going to have more capabilities if the info fed in. So 100%. On the other side, as I mentioned, Pilates, the big chat. So when it comes to the fitness consumer, obviously recovery was the huge chat that I endlessly said over and over again. Last year, this year, it seems like Pilates low impact. You have invested in so many innovative companies in the Halo space. So for 2025, what do you think is the thing that by this time next year, I'll be like, oh, we've talked about this endlessly come September 2025. What's it going to be?
Well, first of all, I'm not making any more investments. And I actually want to use this on a very serious note that I made 7 investments in different companies, and early stage companies are not destined to win. Okay. So if you look at a restaurant, someone's like, hey, Krissy, why don't you invest in this restaurant? 9 out of 10 times you're going to lose your money and you're probably going to lose a friendship because that person said they were going to get it done and didn't execute. And it's money you didn't need to spend on that tax write-off. So a lot of these new ideas that come up, if you take someone's money for friends and family around, or if you run a company and it's not doing well, you got to shut it down. Okay, you can't keep borrowing money from people or raising money at such silly valuations, because it creates people saying, "Oh, there was one investor that said to me when I was pitching him a health club deal. He's like, isn't that where private equity goes to lose all their money?" And he was back in the day of like Bally's when Bally's used to go bankrupt, every like 4 or 5 years. And friends of theirs that, invested in a health club that, pre-sold memberships and then never opened. Um, or they just like have a lock on the door because they didn't pay their sales tax or whatever. So I think there's a lot of investments that are being made, but you as an individual investor, like that comes out of your checking account or your savings account. It doesn't come out of a fund. Okay. And if someone's asking you for money to fund a business that seems like it's more established than a friends and family business, they're coming to you because they couldn't get money from people that invest in those types of businesses. There's something flawed about that. Okay. And also, if anyone does any like crowdsourcing or like puts money into deals that they have no idea like what's going on, if you invest in a crowdsourcing business, there is zero corporate governance. Okay. There's nobody like checking in. Like the reason to invest in private equity or venture capital through a fund is that those fund managers or those professionals that work at a fund are basically betting their career that they can make 4, 5, 6 times or 10 times their investment. And all these funds get paid on 20% of the gain, right? So they are highly incentive financially to make sure that this thing doesn't go bankrupt and that we don't give the owner 25% option pool, that we don't keep raising money at silly levels, and that we don't take on too much debt that's going to kill the company, and we don't start veering off in a different business model than we set up, right? So workout recovery is a great space. It's going to continue to be a great space with Higher Dose, the 2 great women that we invested in. One's named, like I said, Katie Caps and Lauren Berlin Gently. Now Chris Jacob, who used to work for me, is now the CFO and doing a great job with Samish and the rest of the team there in Victoria. Hope they listen to this. I feel like I'm giving out an acceptance speech right now, like a Grammy
my
Awards.
mom and dad and my shoes.
Like to thank everyone who showed up at the trade show for Higher Dose products. Like that company should have failed, to be honest with you, because during COVID, we were basically in the bricks and mortar sauna business, and we had to shut down during COVID. And the 2 co-founders of the business and co-CEOs basically had an infrared sauna blanket that was like the one takeaway where if you can't come to the sauna, in person, like we've got this really cool $600 blanket, and we sold $18 million worth of blankets, the first year of COVID. And now we're like a full e-commerce, women's focused workout recovery, LED light therapy. And that's been a great ride, and it's been a lot of fun. Obviously it's been challenging. And, I was always excited about workout recovery. So it was a reason why I invested in that. Cause I thought that was going to be the next wave, and it turned out to be the next wave. Some of the other businesses I invested in, I shouldn't have invested in because it wasn't something that was super unique, and it wasn't something I had a real passion for. And I just threw some money at it because I wanted to like diversify. But when you diversify what you're doing, you can't help that company as much because you spread yourself too thin. So some advice to like entrepreneurs here: if you're going to do, let's say you're going to do like a European wax, clinic, and you want to build like 20 of those. Someone's like, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea? Why don't we add like a Massage Envy, platform in here too? Why don't we like go get the metabolic, license and do HIIT recovery? Maybe we'll do like, we should do like Stretch Labs also. It's like, you know what? Let me tell you what you should do. You should go focus on one brand, focus on the unit economics, build it, and then sell it to somebody else, and then go do something else. Okay. Make money and do something else. If you spread yourself on 5 ideas, each one of them get 20%, and there's only amount of energy you have every day and your return on time. And you're going to be pissed at yourself afterwards. Cause like, you know what, if I just woke up and focused on one thing, like that thing would be awesome. Okay. So that's one of my, like, if I could like go back and rewind the clock and do things differently, I thought when I turned 40, I know you thought it was a year ago, but it's not. 12 years ago, 52. When I was 40 years old, I'm like, I'm going to bat 1,000 because I've seen everything in the fitness industry. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I can help people open up doors. And the reality is, in venture capital or early stage investing, if you go like, 2 for 10, you're probably getting another fund because you probably made a lot of money on those 2 investments. And people are like, yeah, that's what you have to do. It's like portfolio theory or game theory. The issue is that you also have to have the guts and the wherewithal to basically tell 8 of those 10 entrepreneurs that you invested in, that you agreed, hey, we're going to build a big company together. You failed. Okay. It's not my fault. I gave you advice. You didn't take it. I don't know if my advice would have been better, a path to go down, but I'm not funding your payroll anymore. Okay. I don't have any empathy left because We had a game plan and the game plan didn't work. So shut it down. Okay. And if you want to be an angel investor and you want to make money, don't combine the two things. Either be a shrewd and investor that has rights to help make decisions or blocking rights. And then don't, don't reel out of that and be like, oh yeah, okay, I'll agree with that because I'm like an angel investor. So being an angel investor is a good way to lose most of your money, and being like a real investor that's like focused on a couple of things and only a couple of things is the road to success. I don't even remember what the question was, but that's my answer. I feel like
I,
Kamala Harris in like trouble. Let me tell you what I think.
I love to me, I'm like, that's my favorite part about podcasting is like the little weird ride that you take and great nuggets all drop in between. And with you, I was like, there's no way this is going to, I think I wrote that in my message to you. I was like, we're not going to follow a roadmap. There's no way.
No,
And
there's not, like I don't even know what it looks like
I
anymore.
would have been disappointed if we had, to be
If I
truthful.
had to play Candyland right now, I'd probably get punished or something. Like color within the lines. Like I'm not doing it anymore.
As we round it out, you do Halo Talks, you have the Halo Academy. So for those that haven't taken part, tell me, why is it something that they should show up to, especially the fact that we are seeing this incredible convergence in the industry. Like, I grew up in the era of shredded abs and diet culture. It is fucking refreshing to see everybody be like, oh, we're actually a hub for social, community, mental, and physical wellness. And it's beyond a buzzword. I'm like, you all seem to really believe that. So why should people attend if we are looking to kind of converge in this Halo space and blow everything up positively?
Yeah. So during COVID, so I've been doing this podcast now since March 2017. And the original purpose of having the podcast was that when I sell a company or I'm raising money for a company, you have to put something called a teaser together, which is basically like a one pager or like 5 PowerPoint slides. And then you send it to, anywhere between 10 to 100 investors. You hope that they read it. And then you get them under non-disclosure agreement and you bring them into the process. And I was like shocked. And I've been doing banking for plus minus 20 years. I was shocked that like some people don't even like read the teaser. And I'm like, dude, how much more concise do you want this? Right. So what I started to do, because I probably like to talk and give myself my own platform to do that. No, I don't talk that much. I'm usually very shy. But when I'm not shy, I said, you know what? Why don't I interview the CEO of the company? Okay. We'll launch the podcast like a week before we launch the process. And then I'll send it to a private equity, business development guy or like somebody who runs a fund. I'll be like, hey, listen to this podcast. It's 22 minutes. I don't do anything more than like 25. And listen to this. See if you like this idea and you think that you could work with this person and that you put money behind him or her. And one of the early wins was with a very close friend of mine, and he's like a brother to me. Is a guy named Terry Blachik, one of the original co-founders of Orange Theory Fitness. He worked at Crunch, worked at Lifestyle Family Fitness, and he's a great operator. He's a great systems guy, and he's a great leader, and knows how to build a team. And during this podcast that we did, because we helped them we sold this business, I don't know, probably like $50 million or something, and this company came in and helped them build out Orange Theories in Texas, in Kansas, in Oklahoma, in Arizona. This thing was like on fire. And in the podcast that I did with them, like, how quickly can you grow? Because I'm like telegraphing certain questions because I know the private equity groups, what do they want to do? They want to grow because that's how they get their return. So I'm like, Terry, how quickly can you grow? And I was, usual entrepreneur would say like, how much money do I have? Right. But his answer was, you know what? It's based on the quality and the success of my team. Right. And he said this, which I'll never forget. He said, I can't microwave a manager. I have to crock pot a manager.
Love that.
And he basically said, that is my only inhibitor to growth is my people. Okay. And then he said a couple other things that were, not as, profound as that, but like, some of his buzzwords. And then we got into management presentations, and the head of this group that he ended up partnering with at the time was called Clearlight Capital. And the managing partner was Michael K. And we got into the meeting, and everyone kind of did their thing. Hey, how we doing? How we doing? And Michael K goes, Terry, on the podcast, I love that you said you can't microwave a manager. You have to crock pot them. And that is how we think here. We're only going to grow that we don't outgrow ourselves. And that's when businesses fail. when they try and do too much. So after that happened, I'm like, we're definitely doing a deal with these guys, like because we're on the same page about how to grow a company and how to articulate that, and like just like the feeling that you get when someone's like, this is how I do things. I've been doing it for 40 years and I'm never going to be like doing something I'm not comfortable with. So after that happened, we ended up doing like 550 podcasts because people would call and say, look, I can't help you raise money for every company, but what I can do is I can help you do an infomercial on your company, be
Great.
20, 25 minutes. And you can use this to raise capital. You can use this to, send to a landlord. You can use it to send to a debt provider. So you don't have to tell your story 100 times. Tell it to me. And then, use the link. We'll give you a cool caricature. You'll be on the podcast soon too. So it'll be awesome for you.
Love a caricature
No
moment.
problem. So that's what we did with Halo Talks. And then when COVID hit, I love to teach. I went to Harvard Business School and I like to educate people. That's probably the most important thing that I like to do. Unfortunately, it's not like my full-time job, but if I were to go back, I'd probably do the same thing, but I'd probably go and teach right now. Yeah, like a
I would have
college or
thought
something.
stand-up comedian. I feel like you can educate people and be hilarious at the
Yeah,
same
no,
time. You have a knack.
it's kind of like it's kind of like edutainment
With a
is what we said.
question.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love doing that. Not for, I mean, the comedy part kind of like lightens people up. Like it's not going to be like a hardcore. I'm not going to like call on you and like rip you. I'm going to call on you and be like, hey, let me get this out of you. Right.
I want the more roast. If I join you on your podcast, just roast the shit out of me.
That's fine. I got to get some more intel, but I could probably get that together. But there is one. I'm going to tell you one other story after this. But after we did the podcast during COVID, I'm like, I got to talk to people. Like, what can I talk to them about besides, here's all like the carnage in the industry. So I found 5 business school cases. It's all case studies. So there's one on Planet, one on Soul Cycle, one on CrossFit, one on Peloton, and one on Cycle for Survival. And I basically did 2-week programs. So it's Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday. And we go through the case study for 90 minutes. And then I bring someone on who is a franchisee of Planet Fitness on a Q of A. And then we did the same thing 5 nights in a row. We've done about 12 like cohorts of this. So basically what I do is I'm like, look, what do you know about Planet Fitness as an example? You've been to a Planet Fitness?
I've never had the chance to go in person.
Okay. So like if someone wants to say like all the Gold's gyms back in the day, I know we're hitting up on time, but I'd like to hold this hostage for a second.
Yeah, please.
So a lot of the Gold's gyms back in the day used to say to me, I'm like, look, you got to watch out for Planet Fitness, okay? Because their business model actually works. And here's why it works. And they're like, dude, they're going to be out of business, $15 a month, da-da-da-da. So the reason why Planet Fitness business model works is because they have figured out a way out of frustration and out of desperation, because it used to be a Gold's gym that was failing. And they said, you know what? I'm ripping out everything here that costs me money, okay? I'm not paying sales commissions anymore. I am not having personal trainers here because they steal from me and they take up space. I'm not having any more group exercise instructors because they tell me like they need a raise, and like these 300 people, like their members just happen to be here, try and hold me hostage. I'm not doing daycare because I'm not in the daycare business. Okay. And I'm not selling stuff that, supplements that for some reason every month there's more supplements that get stolen than actually get sold. Right. So they ripped out everything, basically turned it into like Southwest Airlines. And you don't have to give somebody a sales commission if it's $15. Like that sells itself. Right. I don't have to, have a lot of labor, if I'm basically running like a fitness equipment warehouse. And I'm not here to give you results. I'm here to give you access to get your own results. Okay.
Right.
So no one ever says at Planet Fitness, like, come here for 30 days and lose, 10 pounds. Like maybe if you do it, but I'm not giving you a person to do it at that price. So, and then they have an annual maintenance fee. Okay. Which is $29, now $39. So the average health club has about 4,000 members. Okay. The average Planet Fitness, between 8 and 10,000 members. So if I get $39 from 10,000 people, all right, that's $390,000. Okay. That equates to 50% of the cash flow of the club comes from that one piece of the business model. Okay. And I don't pay sales commissions. So you as a health club operator, you're paying like 15% of revenue out to some kid who like walked somebody around and sold them a membership they were all going to buy. Right. So their cost structure is lower. And then what they did, which nobody does in this industry, is they spend $13,000 a month on advertising.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, and they've done a brilliant job with like the influencer campaigns they have done.
Everything.
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts people, they got Times Square. You've got everyone wearing Planet Fitness gear because you get 2% from like 2,000 locations, which is a $90 million ad fund that nobody has. So they're like, look, we're going to fill the top of the funnel. Okay. And if people attrit, they attrit, but they're going to come back. And at one point in time, I'm going to bill 10,000 people $39, not on their credit card. It's going to hit your bank account. Okay. Because you cannot sign up for a Planet Fitness unless I have your bank account. So if I have your bank account, one, it costs less for me to actually hit the bank account. Two, most people don't change their bank unless there's like identity theft or like they kick you out for one reason or another. But people change their credit cards all the time. People don't pay them. And then they give it to debt collectors, right? So Planet Fitness has like, if we were playing football, it has like a 30-point advantage. If we were playing football against Planet Fitness, they have a 30-point advantage because of these things that I just referenced to you. And it's basically a model that's like a cash register that makes $700,000 of cash flow. So in each one of these case studies that I do, we basically like unbundle, like, is this a good business model? And this is how the engine works. And if you're going to compete with a Planet Fitness, or you're going to compete with a Soul Cycle, compete with a CrossFit, or even compete with like Peloton, I need to understand, like, how does this business run in order for me to like play against it, right? Mm-hmm. So there's like scouts and coaches that go out and like scout the other team in any game that you're playing, right? Why do they do that? Because I need intelligence on how I'm going to respond to that, or how am I going to change my defensive or offensive playbook. So long story short, we do 5 classes. We did another 5 in Halo 102, and we've done some seminars to a lot of Gold's Gym operators. And I'm like, what does a win constitute? You know, and a lot of these health club operators now have like their KPIs set up, and I go around the room with the Gold's Gym guys, and I say, what's your record so far? So I say, these health club operators, if you want to make the playoffs, you got to go like, 9-3, or you got to go 10-2, or else you're not making the playoffs. So think about your business as like, did I win this month? Did I lose this month? What can I change? What don't I know? Because all this information is out there. What I just told you about Planet Fitness, not in Pete Moore's head. It's something I read or something I got, and now I'm going to explain it to you. You're going to compete against Planet Fitness. You have to change your offensive playbook and your defensive playbook, on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. If you're not looking at that information, then you're not really playing like a sports team. Every Sunday, there's probably 1,000 hours between this Sunday and next Sunday in the football game that people are trying to figure out who's injured on the other team, who looks like they're like, have a hamstring pull, and we're going to run plays towards that person. Okay. Or we're going to do this because in the film shows that like they don't react to certain things. So we know that there are pockets that we can go into. My point is, like, we don't plan on, there's not a strategy on how we present ourselves as health clubs or fitness studios. And also, like, we're not using the intelligence of like, how do those guys make money? Like, if I don't know how they make money, I sure as hell know, I don't know how I'm going to compete with them.
Right.
So that's why we do the Halo Academy. So if I can educate executives on like how the business works and how you talk to an investor on like, hey, what's your special sauce? And if you say you don't have a special sauce, you're not getting money. Okay. So I got to get a business model and unit economics that work. And then if I can teach, we've got like 200, 300 people that we've gone through the Halo Academy. If I could teach you on how to articulate that and how to own that information and tell an investor, like, this is how my prototype box works. And I'm going to explain it to you qualitatively and quantitatively. And I want you to give me money because I'm going to replicate these 10 locations that I've optimized. And I'm going to go do another 20. And I need your money to do that. And you don't have to worry about me changing anything because I got a model and I got a special sauce. And I'm basically just going to put it out there. And I got the people, like Terry said, to actually go and run the play, quarterback. So I want to educate people and bring in more money into the industry. In closing, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to solve obesity, diabetes, mostly in kids, and loneliness. And the only way to do that in a capitalist society is get people capital to actually go and attack those 3 things in a business that is profitable. Okay. Then more and more money pours in here. Like, hey, I can make a lot of money in the Halo sector. They're not offering $9 Pilates. It's $39. Good. You know what? That's what someone should pay for a Pilates class. If they're going to pay $150 to go see a 2-hour, Lion King show, right? Or $44 for the Bronzino at the seafood place on the corner, that you take down in 12 minutes, versus like a Soul Cycle class for 35. So raise your price, figure out your business model, empower your team to actually like be able to go and run the business where they don't have to come to you because you already taught them how to run it. So I'm going to get off my soapbox right now. I'm going to put my Adidas on. I love that you brought the kicks.
Yes. You are a treat, Pete Moore. Honestly, I was told before we met that you are a character, and you just like have proven to me that bankers are not boring. You have such a brilliant mind, and I just thank you so much for sharing. Like
Thank
that
you.
was really fun.
Yeah, no, I appreciate what you're doing, and I really think that there's going to be at least 3 or 4 people that listen to this podcast and every one of your podcasts, and they're just going to like think differently, and you might never know about it, but know that you don't need to know because it's happening.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Krissy Vann. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.